You were not born to sleepwalk through life. You were not placed here to follow scripts written by people too afraid to write their own. You were born to think, to wonder, to question, to break the pattern. You carry a force inside you, not the noise, not the fear, not the expectations of others, but thought, real thought, the kind that bends time, the kind that builds futures, the kind that rewrites destiny. The moment you stop thinking for yourself, you've already lost, not because the world is cruel, but because you surrendered the most powerful tool you've ever been given, your mind. You want change? Then change the way you think. You want more? Then think bigger. You want freedom? Then stop outsourcing your belief. Nobody can give you that. Belief is earned, forged in doubt, sharpened in silence. You either own your mind or your mind owns you. Everything begins in thought. But thought alone means nothing unless it is fused with direction, with purpose, with vision. The mind is a rocket, but without coordinates, it will explode or orbit nothing. So decide what you want, not what sounds good, not what others applaud, but what lights a fire so deep inside you that it burns even when everything around you turns to ice. You were never meant to live life on autopilot. You were meant to observe, to question, to understand the unseen patterns that shape your outcomes. That is how you gain clarity, not by chasing noise, but by stripping it away. Truth is found not in excess, but in essence. Cut through the distractions. Clarity is not a gift, it's a war. You fight for it by removing everything that blurs the target, until what remains is undeniable. Because without clarity, there is no movement, just motion. Busy, but not progressing. Awake, but not alive. Every morning, you wake up without direction. You are handing your future to the winds of chance. And chance is never loyal. But vision is. Purpose is. Discipline is. These are not traits you're born with, they're muscles. And like any muscle, they grow under resistance. Discipline is the test. The line in the sand between I want it and I'm becoming it. You won't always be motivated. You won't always feel like it. But that's irrelevant. If your actions are dictated by your feelings, you lose. Every time. Because feelings lie. They fluctuate. They vanish when the storm comes. But discipline stays. Discipline doesn't care how you feel. It only cares whether or not you showed up. There will be days when everything in you wants to quit, when your mind screams for comfort, when your body begs for rest. And that is the moment that defines you. Not when it's easy, not when it's fun, but when everything says no and you say yes. That is the separation. That is the moment your future self is watching. That is the spark where resilience is born. Resilience is not about never falling. It's about rising before the dust even settles. It's about becoming so unshakable that no failure, no criticism, no delay can make you stop, because your reason is bigger than your resistance. You do not bend to difficulty. You bend difficulty to your will. And that begins in your belief system. You have been taught to doubt, conditioned to fear, trained to shrink when life expands. But the belief is not fantasy. Belief is physics. Thought becomes energy. Energy becomes matter. What you repeat in your mind becomes the structure of your life. That is not wishful thinking. That is how the universe functions. The brain fires in patterns. What you wire, you fire. If all you see is failure, your brain will seek more of it. If all you see is lack, your mind will build a fortress to keep abundance out. But if you decide, truly decide to shift the lens, to elevate your perception, to believe beyond logic, the universe bends. because it always has. That is not magic. That is design. You don't need more information. You need more decision. You need to stop waiting for perfect timing, perfect plans, perfect certainty, and move. Thought without action is hallucination. All the books you read, all the knowledge you absorb, means nothing if you stay in paralysis. Action cures doubt. Movement births confidence. The fastest way to believe you can is to do what you don't think you can, again and again, until it becomes normal. And in that movement, in that doing, you must endure, because endurance is the filter through which all success is sifted. Nothing meaningful arrives without the cost of patience, without the currency of effort. Everyone wants to win, but few are willing to be broken and rebuilt for it. Endurance is the price. Growth is the receipt. The world is not interested in your excuses. It rewards results. And results don't come from inspiration. They come from systems, from repetition, from doing the thing, especially when it's boring, especially when it's invisible, especially when nobody claps. That's where most give up. They think silence means failure. But silence is proof you're deep in the process. That's when roots grow. That's when identity shifts. That's when you become the kind of person who doesn't stop. You want power? Then master your habits, because your future is buried under your current behaviors. Your income, your energy, your peace, it's all tied to what you do when no one's watching. Want a different life? Do something different, not once, but daily. Not when it's fun, but especially when it's hard. Because habits don't ask how you feel. They don't care if you're tired. They just execute. And if your habits are aligned with your vision, then time is your ally. You become inevitable. There's a moment when it all shifts, when the old version of you starts to crack, when the voice that once said, "I can't," begins to stutter. That moment comes not with a bang, but a quiet defiance, the decision to stop living as a reaction and start creating from intention. You stop waiting for proof. You stop asking for permission. You stop looking outside, and you turn inward. That's where it starts. That's where it always starts. Because real transformation doesn't begin in the world. It begins in how you see it. Your perception is the gatekeeper of your reality. Two people can walk the same road. One sees opportunity, the other sees limits. The road didn't change. The eyes did. And until you train your mind to see possibility in pain, power in pressure, clarity in chaos, you will keep circling the same patterns, calling them fate. But you are not a victim of fate. You are the architect of it. You do not find meaning, you make it. You assign value. You direct attention. You choose what this moment becomes. Not because it's easy. Not because you always feel ready, but because you decided your life would mean more than just survival. That choice, that demand for more, is what separates the wanderers from the warriors. It's not just about dreaming. Dreams are everywhere. It's about the audacity to live them out, even when the world says it's impossible. Even when your own doubt rises like a storm. Even when logic screams to play it safe. That's when you double down. That's when you lean in. That's when you become untouchable. Not because you feel powerful, but because you know deeply, unshakably, that you are becoming something greater than your circumstances. You're no longer chasing outcomes. You're becoming outcomes. That's the shift. The moment belief hardens into identity. When you stop thinking, "I want," and start knowing, "I am." Not someday, now. Your identity is not your past. It is not your fear. It is not your failures. It is not what they said. Your identity is the story you decide to live into. And every action you take is a vote for that version of you. So stop telling yourself you need to be ready. You don't. You need to be willing. Willing to look foolish. Willing to fall. Willing to become. And becoming requires fire. It requires friction. It requires letting go of who you were so you can make room for who you must be. You cannot hold the old and receive the new. There is no expansion without release. You must empty to be filled, shed to be shaped. The process is not punishment, it's precision. The struggle is not a sign you're weak, it's the evidence you're growing. Growth doesn't always feel like elevation. Sometimes it feels like chaos, like breaking, like losing pieces of yourself. But what if those aren't losses? What if those are extra weights being burned off so you can rise? What if the discomfort is the universe asking, are you sure? And your endurance is the answer? Because if you can stay focused through confusion, if you can stay committed through contradiction, then you've already won. The outside will catch up to the inside. Because everything external is a reflection of the internal. There is no success without self-control, no wealth without awareness, no peace without purpose. You want more? Then be more, not for validation, not for applause, but because your standards demand it, because your future self is watching, because greatness is a responsibility, not a reward. And with that responsibility comes sacrifice. You cannot stay comfortable and become exceptional. You cannot cling to average and expect excellence. There is a cost. There is always a cost. The question is, are you willing to pay it? Are you willing to be misunderstood? To be alone? To be laughed at, doubted, rejected, not because you're wrong, but because you dared to be different? If you want to lead, you must stop following. If you want to rise, you must stop waiting. If you want to create, you must stop consuming. This world is not changed by passive thinkers. It is changed by courageous builders. And you are one. You've just forgotten. You've let noise drown out your knowing. But it's still there. It's always been there under the fear, beneath the failure, behind the fog, waiting for you to remember who you are. You are not your mistakes. You are not your delays. You are not your doubts. You are the one who decides what all of that means. You are the author, the builder, the force. You don't need another sign. This is the sign. This is the reminder. This is the mirror you've been avoiding. Now look in it and take ownership. Stop outsourcing your power. Take it back. Stop living in reaction. Take control. Stop hesitating. Move with clarity, with fire, with the kind of conviction that doesn't beg, doesn't ask, doesn't wonder, it commands. Command your focus. Command your attention. Command your environment. You don't rise by accident. You rise because your standards made it impossible to stay the same. Your vision was too big to ignore. Your hunger too deep to suppress. Your reason too meaningful to abandon. And when the voice of fear returns, because it will, you look it in the eye and say, not this time. Not when I've come this far. Not when I've seen who I could become. Not when I've tasted what it feels like to live from truth instead of fear. You silence it with action. You answer it with discipline. You prove it wrong with every step forward. You don't chase confidence. You earn it. You don't wait for clarity. You build it. You don't hope for purpose. You define it in the grind, in the darkness, in the repetition that no one else is willing to endure. That's where you become undeniable. That's where identity hardens into destiny. Most people quit before it gets good, before it clicks, before the storm clears. They confuse friction with failure. discomfort with danger. But you weren't built for easy. You were built for resistance, for pressure, for the kind of tension that forges diamonds, not excuses. So when the world pushes, you push harder. When the weight feels unbearable, you don't drop it. You grow stronger under it. Because pressure reveals potential. It doesn't break you. It introduces you to the version of yourself that comfort keeps hidden. The one that doesn't beg for relief, but gets sharper in pain. The one that doesn't crumble in confusion, but builds systems out of chaos. The one that doesn't hide in shadows, but learns to burn brighter in them. That's you. That's what lives inside you. Not fear, not fragility, but fire. You weren't meant to live safe. You were meant to live true. And truth demands confrontation with your habits, with your lies, with the parts of yourself you keep hiding from. Because what you don't face, you can't fix. And what you avoid controls you. So face it all. The shame, the guilt, the insecurity. Not to dwell, but to dominate. Drag it into the light and say, you no longer lead. Because freedom is not found in running, it's found in returning to your power, to your clarity, to your inner authority. That's the breakthrough, when you stop escaping and start engineering. When you stop looking for the path and realize you are the path. You are the pattern breaker, the curse killer, the chain splitter. You do not inherit mediocrity. You either accept it or you end it. And you were never meant to accept it. So stop shrinking. Stop diluting. Stop downplaying your potential to fit a version of yourself that was designed in fear. You don't need to fit in. You need to level up. You need to live up to the call, the whisper, the fire that won't shut up no matter how much you ignore it. That's not noise. That's your soul. And it's tired of being muted. Let it speak. Let it move. Let it rise. And as you rise, people will question you. They'll misunderstand you. They'll resist the new you because it disrupts their comfort. But your job is not to stay small so others can stay stable. Your job is not to explain your evolution. Your job is to become undeniable. Let your life be the evidence. Let your discipline be the argument. Let your peace be the volume knob on the noise they throw at you. This is not about being liked. This is about being aligned. This is not about looking successful. This is about becoming powerful. Not in arrogance, but in presence. In depth, in truth, real power is quiet. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't seek permission. It simply is. You walk into a room and shift it, not because you say something loud, but because your silence speaks louder than their chaos. And that kind of power is earned through repetition, through mental war, through choosing what's necessary over what's comfortable again and again and again. That's how confidence is born. Not from compliment, but from the evidence you collect in private. The days you showed up without applause. The nights you kept going without answers. The mornings you built while others slept. That's what builds the quiet knowing, the unshakable center. And that center will be tested. Life will stretch you, break your plans, rip your comfort apart, not to punish you, but to make you worthy of what you asked for. You want expansion? Then make room. Let the old self die. Let the weak habits rot. Let the patterns that serve the past stay in the past. Because elevation requires elimination. Every level demands a lighter load. You can't carry everything and expect to fly. Let go of the weight, of the lies, of the timelines. Let go of who you thought you needed to be. There's nothing to prove. There's only something to unlock. And unlocking it won't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the furnace, in the resistance, in the repetition that nobody sees. That's where your real life begins. So stop looking for the shortcut. There is none. Mastery is not a secret. It's a standard. One you set, one you enforce, one you never lower. Not for fear, not for fatigue, not for failure. You rise because you refuse to sink. You win because you refuse to quit. You lead because you refuse to follow a path that wasn't yours. This is not motivation. This is alignment, a return to truth, remembering that the answers were never out there, that the power was never lost, that the future you're chasing is already watching, already waiting, already whispering, I'm not somewhere else, I'm on the other side of your decisions. Make them now, boldly, unapologetically, irreversibly. Decide who you are. Then live like it's law. Think like it's inevitable. Move like it's already done. Not to impress, but to become. Not to perform, but to embody. That is the key. That is the shift. That is the quantum leap most never take. The leap from hoping to choosing, from wanting to becoming, from dreaming to engineering. Because vision without structure is fantasy. Desire without discipline is delusion. You don't need a better plan. You need better standards. Higher ones, tighter ones, ruthless ones. The kind that turn chaos into structure. That turn thoughts into tools. That turn goals into inevitabilities. That's the path. And if you're still breathing, it means you're not done walking it. You are not here to blend in. You are not here to repeat history. You are not here to recycle limitation dressed as logic. You are here to evolve, to stretch, to walk so far past your former self that the old you wouldn't recognize the gravity of your presence now. You are the edge and the step beyond it. You are the signal breaking through the static. And if you feel resistance right now, good. That means you're close. Because the breakthrough never comes in the calm. It shows up in the tension, the weight, the silence before the scream. It's not a light at the end of the tunnel. It's the light that erupts when you realize you are the tunnel and you were the exit the whole time. So wake up, not to a clock, but to the truth, that the future isn't coming, it's being built with every thought you entertain, with every standard you enforce, with every choice you make. When no one is looking, time is not the master your attention is. Focus is your currency. Spend it with precision. Waste it, and you stay broke. Direct it, and you become unstoppable. This world doesn't owe you understanding. It doesn't owe you approval. It owes you nothing, and that is your freedom. You don't need a guarantee. You don't need a cheerleader. You don't need conditions to be perfect. You just need a reason. One that's bigger than your fear, bigger than your fatigue, bigger than your ego. And when you have that reason, nothing can stop you. Not the critics, not the failures, not the delays. Because you've made peace with the process. You've committed to the climb. You've decided that even if it takes longer than you thought, even if it breaks you in the middle, you will still rise. You will still move. You will still build a life that doesn't flinch under pressure. Because this isn't just a goal anymore. It's who you are. And that's the moment nothing external can shake you. Because your fire is not borrowed. It's not seasonal. It's not conditional. It's embedded. It's elemental. It's written in the way you speak to yourself. When the lights are off and no one's clapping, it's coded into your habits, your focus, your energy. That's the kind of power no one can give and no one can take. So stop begging for signs. You are the sign. Stop searching for proof. Be the proof. Live with such clarity, such consistency, such conviction That doubt doesn't even recognize your voice anymore. Show up like you mean it. Work like it's sacred. Move like it's already yours, not because of arrogance, but because you understand the laws of thought, of cause and effect, of attention and energy. This is not spiritual fluff. This is physics. This is reality. What you hold in your mind, you hold in your hands. What you water grows. What you neglect withers. What you believe, you build. And what you fear, you feed. So choose wisely. Choose daily. Choose fiercely. You are building neural pathways with every word you speak. You are sculpting a mindset with every belief you accept. And you are setting your trajectory with every standard you tolerate. No more tolerating mediocrity. No more agreeing with limitation. No more letting the moment decide your identity. You decide, now, over and over again, until your entire nervous system aligns with the life you know is possible. Until your thoughts, your actions, your speech, your silence, your posture, your breath, all echo the same truth. I am not average. I was never supposed to be. Let the world call you intense. Let them call you obsessive. Let them call you unreasonable. You are, that's the point. That's how transformation happens. Not by obeying the rules of the mediocre, but by bending reality with the force of clarity, vision, and self-control. That's the kind of life Einstein imagined. Not one of routine survival, but one of radical authorship. One where imagination is not an escape, but a tool of construction. One where reality bends to the frequency of thought, and the thinker becomes the architect of possibility. So imagine it, then act on it. Don't wait for alignment. Create it. Don't wait for momentum. Become it. Don't hope for courage. Manufacture it through action. You were not made to observe life. You were made to invent it, to disrupt the default, to leave nothing on the table, to become the kind of person who looks fear in the face and says, move, I've got work to do. And when it's hard, good. It's supposed to be. That means you're in the arena. That means you're alive. That means your existence is no longer just survival. It's design, precision, legacy. That means you're the glitch in the matrix, the anomaly in the algorithm, the one who saw limitation and refused to agree with it. So go, break the mold, burn the old, build the new, walk like it's already done, speak like it's already happening, work like the door is already open, because it is. It always has been. You just had to become the one who could walk through it. And now you are.